too much about Falcons, and this is a bit of a learning experience for us, and it's kind of hard to watch a team that we know like TSM struggle against them, because you're like, well, who are these guys? How are they so good? And the reason is they're playing the game that's put in front of them right now, and they've certainly got TSM on the back foot here inside of this best of 3. Villa, will this be a map that they do well on as well as they did on Chalet, or is it opportunity for TSM to fight back? We are going to see a couple of real off-meta bans there. We've got an Osa ban and a Ying ban. Now, Ying is something that Falcons did struggle with a little bit earlier on today, so it kind of makes a bit of sense. TSM will have obviously done their homework from that Falcons MIBR game. I wonder what they're going to go for here. They are going to go back for that Valkyrie. Kind of frees TSM up a little bit there to just make their own decision and see what they want to deal with or without for that first phase.
The Osa one from TSM is going to be interesting as well. We have seen Osa be quite useful, especially for pushes into laundry to be able to access tarps and kitchen site. Wow, the last one from TSM makes perfect sense, though. Obviously, we've seen Azami surge in the meta ever since she was activated a few months ago at this point, and she has also surged in the ban pick as well, especially at least with the NAL. So that's going to make perfect sense to see her show up there. We'll have to see how the rest of these bans play out, though. So we get ourselves into it for the second map, potentially the final map for TSM. If they cannot rebound from their initial performance on Chalet, they'll be going home, and the last hope for North America here at Gamers8 will fall with them.
SSG, of course, already being knocked out a little bit earlier on. Liquid, a fantastic comeback over on Border, where they really battled back against that match point for round after round to bring it back, and then pretty short affair over on Oregon as well. So really is the last hope here for North America. TSM, we've got to make every single round in this map count. They're going to go into trophy and statuary to start off their stand. Nothing too outlandish in the operator picks for the defender side. Obviously, the attackers are subject to change, and already we see a couple of those changes coming on through. Nothing really too extravagant. We've gone from a 0 over to a sledge, so obviously opting for a little bit more of that soft breach destruction. The thing that I'm kind of intrigued about here is the mirror and where Merc will choose to play it. We do have one there in from Aviator looking into study, and it looks as though he's going to place the other one over on that statuary wall, keeping an eye on that main bedroom, making it admittedly a lot more difficult to take control of that area.
Overall, this is going to be a bit of a dangerous round for the members of TSM. They currently have 0 ways to mitigate any type of nades, and well, as you can see over on the side of the Falcons, they brought 8 of them, and they're just going to be open for the throwing here into the members of TSM. So if anybody's trying to maintain a constant position behind a deployable shield or whatnot, they'll have to watch out, make sure they're not susceptible to an angle from those nades, as there's really nothing that can stem the tide on that except for running away from it. So TSM will be in a bit of a risky situation. Obviously, Falcons are happy the bands played it the way they did this time, as they'll be starting on the attack, and we'll have the benefit of being able to bring all those nades into the fold as they've done on this round. Bolo quickly maintaining this basement position, though, is going to watch out for any early clears from a Nook or something like that. If we had one from the Falcons that they may have gone for, does not seem they're going to be playing around with that, though. So we have Mad Skills moving in instead from Bicycle to start clearing out the tarps area. And there's those nades, as we were talking about, but Pojo able to not only survive it, but frag back as he finds O-Kills just downstairs there and is able to eliminate the Yana first off in this round.
Joker knows that Pojo's going to be playing upstairs inside of Astronomy, and he's going to be trying to take advantage of that. Pojo has since relocated himself. I really love Bolo's positioning inside of this round as well. He's got himself on the alibi, and he's in probably the most underrated area of this entire map, and that is going to be that basement. It is sprawling, and it's very difficult to clear out as an attacker, so much so that attacks often don't even enter into the basement. So if he plays his cards right, he might see quite a nicely timed flank there. A lot of these up nades getting thrown out from below, but Bolo will be there to reciprocate. He's going to be there to take down Mad Skills. There's only been a damage dealt by those nades. He will be taken out by Joker, who's played very patiently on those Astro stairs, but it still leaves TSM at an advantage. Koto's going to be there to take Pojo down. They haven't quite taken control of the site, and the biggest worry at this point for the Falcons is the location of the diffuser. It's pretty cold on the ground.
This will be a problem for the Falcons and these nades that I talked about at the beginning of the round. They come with a little bit of a double-edged sword here. Joker going for the rappel on red carpet, leaves him so easily exposed to Geo, and he hops over the banister to take him down. One final pickup from Achieved as well. A strategical blunder from the Falcons as they go for arguably the riskiest move on this map from the attacking side, and it predictably does not pay off.
We need to find Joker after this and have a word.
That's like the second time we've seen them do a crazy rappel.
He did it yesterday.
On Border.
He did it on Border. He repelled down the atrium, down the main area in Border yesterday, and actually got away with it. And today he nearly gets away with it on Villa. I've never seen anybody do that. Quite rightly, he got taken out, and TSM are going to be credited with the first round. That wasn't the biggest problem there, admittedly, for the Falcons. I think they really didn't capitalize as much as they could have done on those nades. They had so many nades. The up nades, whilst they were good, they dealt a little bit of damage, and they gave access to destroying some of those canisters for the mirror windows. They didn't net a kill, and that's what you're going to be looking for. You're going to look for those freebies from below to try and give yourself a little bit of an advantage. Bolo's roam, he picked up one, and he wasted a ton of time. It was a much better round there from TSM.
Even worse, we saw a few of those nades actually open up top-down angles that members of TSM were able to use to take out at least one member of the Falcons roster. So huge double-edged sword effect coming in for them on that. We are going to already start to see some change-ups in that regard, as I believe they'll only have 6 of them for this round. JLad will be back onto the sledge for it. See Joker keep them as well on the Finca. We also are going to see the Zero come out to play. That we have seen pop up from time to time on this map to get that extra intel from the Argus cams, which is certainly going to be helpful here for Falcons, considering they struggled with that quite heavily back on the first round.
Let's see what crazy stuff Joker tries to pull this time. I mean, how many more crazy repels are there for him to find? Is he going to show us one that's just so ridiculous we've never even considered it? Maybe we'll have to keep a closer eye, but they're going to be at least attacking into Aviator and Games, or more commonly known as AVG. But quite a nice little line of sight there for TSM to work with. They've opted not to reinforce that whole wall. It makes getting into study a lot more tricky. We do have a couple of Argus cameras to get out there and to gather a little bit of info, as the drone game is going to start to work from below as well. And in conjunction with those Argus cameras, you should be able to get yourself a couple of good nade spots from there. Their attention instead is going to be paid toward that main stair. Bolo going to be full white flash, but no one to capitalize. Toxic Babe canister starting to kick off. Look at that slew of utility. It's actually going to be a TK, as JLad's nade doesn't quite go far enough and detonates at the feet of Mad Skills. We are going to see a bit more nade on nade damage there, as JLad takes a good chunk as he throws one up onto the ceiling. And throughout all of that, Bolo has remained on these main stairs. He is going to be able to find himself at least a down and a finish onto JLad. Gets caught on the reload for the second, unfortunate timing, but Pojo's there to back him up.
Great team support coming in with Pojoman immediately available to refrag that pickup against Bolo. So it's a moot point, the fact that they took him down, as we're still in a 4v2. Yeah, Pojoman's taking a little bit of damage too, but he's on the smoke, so we could just tuck himself behind the bar or somewhere else in the site, wait out the end of the round, which is almost a certainty to approach at this point. The Falcons have no right to start the engagement before they're absolutely forced to, so they're going to sit back, bleed out as much time as possible. Might actually use a little bit of an extended tack pause as well, since the round itself might be dead at this point. They're going to be sitting back, no sign of any forward movement from them, and even worse, the case still down below. Oakhills will have to cross that top-down angle to retrieve it, meaning he could get picked off before he even sees the site as well.
Falcons taking the time, waiting for TSM to make a mistake, but TSM, they have superglued their feet to the floor. They do not need to move, and they are not going to. They have no reason to give themselves up here. Kotos, that's a little bit aggressive onto the breach, just seeing if there's anything that he could find, but quite rightly, there is no one from TSM home. With the diffuser still cold, they really don't have too many concerns at all. Gio just going to be playing outside of Vault Door as Oakhills approaches the study door. Looking maybe to try and push his way on through, at least bait a TSM member into an engagement. As we can hear there, a couple of magnets popping off in the distance. But still, case cold. 7 seconds left. This is not going to end well, and TSM likely going to end up 2-0 up here, as the last 2 kills are confirmed, Achieved and Geo. They've bounced back in a pretty fine way, especially considering how badly Chalet went for them. They've entirely reset that mental, and they've come to Villa to play.
Much more consistent holds here. And unfortunately for the Falcons, really struggling to try and juggle these nades between them. Their big blunder obviously coming in from the team kill. I believe that was a missed bounce going back at one of their players. And then we nearly see a second one against the very same player that had taken down one of his own teammates with that same nade. So a little bit more work needed to be done on the Falcons to try and coordinate that a bit better. Meanwhile, for TSM, there is absolute coordination coming in. Villa looking a heck of a lot better than what we saw on Chalet so far, especially these upstairs defenses. But the Falcons are going to get a little bit of a boost now, hopefully. Now that TSM has worn out their welcome there on the second floor, going to have to extend their player base out a much more thinly than we were seeing on the previous 2 sites, and that'll leave many more opportunities open for Falcons to strike in a true fashion in the early round.
TSM opting to take us downstairs. No one really likes living room library, so it is going to be kitchen that is chosen instead. Pojo left to almost solo set up the site there. He's going to be playing the horsework operator here on that smoke with the shotgun. Pojo, just set the site up. You know what to do. We're going to all get ourselves out and stretch our legs a little bit. Applying a bit of utility upstairs. We are going to have some electrification on the wall there into statuary. Bolo just going to be playing a shield upstairs as well. I always worry when we flick onto Achieved early on into a round because he does have a bit of a habit of getting himself into an early scuffle. There aren't that many options, admittedly, on this map, and it's instead going to be Merc that gets taken out. Achieved is going to hop himself all the way out. He's got to get back inside, though, or is he maybe going to play for another? It looks from the overhead as though he's relatively safe and should just be able to hop back in through the basement here. Even Pojo Man coming in for the buddy system. He just loves looking after this team.
Just a little bit of a positional misplay there, having no support for Koto's. Usually a very safe rappel position, to be fair, so not a huge fault towards the Falcons, but it works out beautifully for TSM this time to make up for the loss of Merc, who that was actually the first bit of combat Merc had actually seen this entire game, only at 0-1 right now. So hopefully he'll get a chance to increase that a little bit later on in the game, but obviously Achieved making up for that in huge dividends, evening us out and slowing down the pace from the Falcons to a huge degree once again. The Falcons a little bit ignorant of the second floor clear, but with good reason. There's pretty minimal presence from TSM upstairs, really only 1 to 2 players roaming about. They're not going to be an immediate threat to the clear from the Falcons, but they will start to become a concern as they move past the kitchen and living room areas, or rather just the living room area. So they will have to start dealing with that soon. And Bolo is going to look to jump into it, but a beautiful nade from Joker. That's what we needed to see on the past 2 rounds. Goes right up on top of Bolo. He doesn't even get the warning for it. It explodes with such perfect timing. And that's now left TSM with only 2 players alive here.
Achieved and Pojo. Achieved is going to be upstairs playing on the 90, and Pojo Man isn't on site either, so the site is entirely open. Joker with an inspired nade. You can only think that that's off the back of a bit of drone information, but again, no opportunity to react. You see the nade symbol and bang, it's exploding. Pojo's got a big clutch ahead of him here, grabs the first, draws for the shotgun. Can he keep the site safe for a whole minute? It is an extraordinary amount of time as nades come in, attempt to reposition him, and J-Lad going to be there to collect. Falcons finally get on the scoreboard here on Villa.
Just no room for Pojo Man to play into that, unfortunately, trying to extend out into tarps. No real safe harbor to go into. It was only a matter of time before he got pinched, and with the limited ammo on the SMG-11 and the shotgun's range issues, he was meant to go down eventually here. Achieved, obviously, with the surprising kill and the even more surprising survival from that. Gives TSM a good start in this round, but it's the nades from Joker that change up the pace, and more importantly, make the fact that the Falcons weren't really going for a direct clear of the second floor an entirely moot point, as both of those nades knock out both of the roam game, allowing for the rest of his team to focus entirely on the site take. Beautifully done, and great support via frags coming in from Joker.
It really plays into you've just got to play the attack that you want to play. You can't just get locked into these sort of preconceived ideas of we must clear top floor, we must do this, we must do that. You just got to play the game that is set in front of you, and Falcons did a great job there of ignoring the norm, ignoring that top floor clear and the vertical pressure that you want to try and apply. Sure, it was a bit of a scrappy start to the round with Chief managing to stay alive outside for far longer than any defender should, but it was a round that Falcons salvaged in the end, and it is, of course, going to force TSM back to their first choice site, trophy and statuary, somewhere that for the most part they were very successful indeed. Now we're seeing a similar lineup from the Falcons. They have indeed got 8 nades here again. No catching utility from TSM, as you noted inside of round number 1. It wasn't something that Falcons capitalized on. It's surely not a mistake they can make again.
Let's find out here if Falcons are going to be able to continue their rampage after what we saw in the previous round, and if TSM will be able to dodge out some of the issues from this utility. Still going to be bringing really only those nades in terms of utility here for the Falcons. Obviously, they've got the 2 claymores to support their position too, as J-Lad gives us a pretty rare glimpse at Ash. Obviously, haven't seen a whole lot of her as of late. We are going to see that nade. Doesn't look like it hit, but indeed it did, and they're going to know from cam intel as well. Gio's gone down. It's a bit of a race to try and grab him. You can see the drone just constantly feeding yellow pings as they make sure they get that final nade off before the revive was to happen. Don't really think TSM are going to go for it with an active drone on top of it, but either way, still a nice kill coming in. Bolo, though, with a snapshot frag against Joker, gets revenge and evens out the numbers.
Keeping things nice and level here, not letting too much of an advantage slip into the Falcons' hands. Poge is going to be there to try and take out JLad. I think he hopped himself outside for that one, as does Achieved. 2 kills in back-to-back rounds, and both from outside of the building. This is very quickly turned quite heavily against Falcons, and it's down to O-Kills to further level things out. 3 versus 2 as he snags a kill just on the entry on into Astro, but Merc.
Oh, no.
He's going to be there to take Mad Skills down and leave O-Kills with it all to do. The diffuser very cold. 1 versus 3 here. C4 gets tossed out. We're going to see a nade sent up as well. Does still have a nade potentially here for Vert. He's going to have to let go of it pretty soon. Instead, just decides to keep hold. I think he got stuck. I don't really think he knew which way to go. Was it going to be the hatch? Was it going to be straight up? Like, what do we do here? Oh, it's too late. I kept holding the nade for too long and sent myself back to the cameras.
His mind was moving faster than his fingers, unfortunately, so he's just not able to get that nade out of his hand in time, and we get that unfortunate blunder. Not that he realistically was able to do much of that round anyway. I brought this up before the tournament. Obviously, some of these 1vx's are being played out a little bit weirdly at this tournament because we have that bounty cash pool, 100K and 25K for our MVP, as well as our top player with the most kills here. So players inside of those situations, when they realize the round's over, they're still going to probably try to play it out to see if they can fish out that extra kill or two just for the sake of trying to increase their odds of picking up that pool. And I think we see a bit of an example of that right there.
Yeah, we haven't seen a single impromptu tack timeout where a player will just get themselves onto the roof, stay safe, and use like 40, 50 seconds.
Yep.
They're like, nah, I need to get at least 1 kill. I've got to have a chance. You know, you've got players like Rampy and Shaiko to try and catch up with.
So as the Falcons try to catch up to the kill totals of some of the players on SSG, TSM is going to excel with a much more consistent performance here on Villa. 3-1 over the Falcons. Really love that pace change-up that we saw in the middle of the round 2, playing pretty much a default to start things out, but then suddenly leaping, I believe, 2 players outside of windows to get right in the face of Falcons, just not giving them any predictable style to work around, that as a result gives TSM that very early advantage, even though things didn't necessarily start out all that great.
Good to see TSM, good to see Achieve, sorry, in the heart of the bomb site there for TSM. He's not near any windows. That's where we like to see him at the start of the round because he's been very active so far. Instead, he's just going to be chilling out on those Astro stairs and leaving the rest of his team to bear the brunt of this initial attack. We've got Pojo Man just getting chipped down a little bit there. Joker got a little bit lucky on the timing. Achieved. It looked as though he was going to start to make his way up toward that bathroom, but for some reason thought better of it. Drones are now working at Merc's feet, and it's going to be enough to push him out of statuary and back a little bit closer toward the site. AVG, a site that we did see Falcons struggle with quite a lot, as that vertical play really didn't go their way, and they kind of did a lot of damage to themselves with those up nades. It looks, at least this time, as though they're going for a slightly different approach.
Things are surprisingly quiet across the map right now, given the kind of explosive nature of this game up until this point. No one wanting to take a massive risk of a swing on this round, but Merc nearly getting one there for the members of the Falcons, still holding that trophy statuary control. We saw Joker now jumping down into the middle balcony of the red hall here, knocking out Geo as well. Direct contact taken towards the kitchen defense, and still one more player sits nearby is Achieved. Also going to maintain that position, looking to distract out and waste all this extra time away from the Falcons here. Meanwhile, Bolo defends the site itself with that deployable shield supporting a Merc having the overwatch from the other side. And of course, the distraction still well in play from down below. Doesn't have a clean route to retreat towards the site, but could certainly pinch in this last minute to surprise against the rest of the push from the Falcons.
No attention's really been paid toward that main stairs. Pojo's going to be playing there right now. There is opportunity for Falcons to make that rotation. Instead, Merc, he's going to be in position to knock Joker down. There's still the threat of this flank from Achieved, and JLad isn't really too aware of it. Looks as though he's going to try and cut it in the middle by heading up those east stairs, and that's exactly where he will move to. There is going to be a player laid prone on map's table, though. That player is going to be Merc. Sees the drone and decides instead to take the gunfight, and it is the right decision. Shuts JLad down, and that opens the door for Achieve now to move his way through and look to put a bit of pressure on that 90 corridor, where we have O-Kills just trying to hold down onto that angle. Pojo Man tucked away into the corner, loses the engagement there to Kotals, and that levels things out at 3 men alive per side. 15 seconds isn't a great deal of time, especially given the positioning here on the Falcons. Achieved The flank comes through beautifully, grabs himself one, potentially lining himself up a second here. Gets a bit of damage dealt to him as Katos pushes in onto site, finds the frag onto Merc. But we're going to see TSM win that one out on time, keeping themselves alive and not taking too many engagements.
The constant threat of the flank from Achieve seemed to have split up the attack a little bit too much for the Falcons. Only really had 2 to 3 players focusing fully on that push and started to lose the bulk of that force far too quickly there. So just never really had the confidence to make their play. Never mind the fact that we didn't really even see any pressure coming
clear. We know exactly where these last couple of guys are, and we can just look to try and pin that down. This round, it looks as though it could be on Bolo to be that roamer, as he has done a couple of times already on the Alibi, really showcasing not only that great aim, but also the weapon. MX4 Storm, super fast fire rate, is perfect for those sort of engagements. Back downstairs we go to Kitchen.
It's one of the big benefits of switching over towards Villa. While stylistically, I think the map plays very similarly to Chalet, it is obviously a much bigger map overall. Much more room to roam around it as well, especially with the free, basically, shortcut that you can take through the basement to get to the other side of the map. So I think that extra freedom has given TSM the confidence boost they need to make much more successful plays over the course of this game. And obviously the results speak for themselves with a 3-round lead coming into the final round of the opening half. Let's see how the Falcons try to change up that fate, though, and hope they can claim potentially a second for themselves.
There's nothing too different in terms of lineup. It's not as if they've gone away and said, we're going to bring a shield and do this. So they're obviously looking to stay doing what they have been doing, because it's not all been falling apart. There's quite a few errors that they've made themselves that have really come back to bite them, and had those errors not occurred, it could have been a slightly different outcome. Gio, we're focusing on him initially as he's inside living room. Shouldn't be too concerned about anybody aggressively pushing on in, but there are going to be a couple of drones working at his feet. Okil's inside a piano. He's got a couple of lines of sight there just onto the bottom of those east stairs. It's likely that we're going to see the same sort of attention paid toward that top floor. We obviously had Achieved running out the previous time we saw this site, and it did make that top floor top floor clear a little bit easier to do, because Falcons knew that there weren't too many people up there. This time, however, TSM are playing a lot more reserved. They still are holding those power positions upstairs, and they're kind of not really giving Falcons much other option other than say, you're going to have to find us.
Let's see if the Falcons are going to be able to successfully do that like we saw before with TSM. A lot more free roaming here on this map, and Merc opening up at least one angle down below. I think he spots a nice little drone to be able to take out there as well, so reduces the count slightly. Falcons still with plenty to go as they still sit with 6 out of 10 of their drone count available. No players dead either, so we don't have any knocked onto the ground, being immobilized. Away from that, though, Falcons really taking their time with this. They have started to push TSM into a little bit of a corner. It's going to be a vertical corner, though, as they still have that extended pressure upstairs. It's obviously just contained over towards the trophy side of the map. Falcons kind of wonder where that explosion came from here and quickly have to move away from it, as unfortunately it's directly above him. He still has some play potential, though, from the inside of Mudroom. He's going to look to see if he can catch some of the members of the opposing team from the outside, but needs to take out some utility first, and that's going to cause delay in the actual push due to the noise that will give away his position.
It's been one of the slowest rounds we've seen so far from both sides. TSM aren't looking to take gunfights too aggressively, and Falcons, they're just really slow on the heads up. But J-Lad going to kick things off with a kill onto Achieved. Takes a good chunk of damage, but a little bit of a finger stim is all it'll take to get it back to just less than half. Bolo shuts Mad Skills down, as he hasn't been a player that Falcons have managed to get a real good eye on just yet. Joker, could he be going for one of his trademark repels? I certainly hope not, at least with the case in his hand. His kills are continuing to fly here. They do have access onto the site, and Kotos is going to make that a little bit better. Pose just on the other side of the wall, as Joker is going to start to get the plant down behind the table. I don't think there's any info here for TSM that this plant is going down, because we're not really seeing anybody move. C4 comes, but it's too late. It would have been perfect had it landed. Bolo's on 3 before being shut down by Joker. He makes the LMG sing, and Falcons, the timeout works.
Joker with the bold play there to push directly in, gambling on the fact that TSM did not have the intel. Thankfully, it was correct, and they're able to work their way into the site, get a clean plant, and as you said, they realize it far too late. The Nitro is essentially pointless, and what it does only pushes Joker closer to another kill against the member of TSM that was holding on to Laundry at the very end of the round there. As you see, Bolo had rotated into it after one of the members of Falcons had tried to crawl into a second angle, but they didn't need it. The push working itself in from the Astro stairs was so successful that they were able to make it work for themselves regardless with a secondary push from Tarps. That's going to now leave the Falcons in a much better position coming off of the first half. 2-4 is the scoreline. Still down, but now with the defense for this map. A great opportunity to bring it back and potentially shut this series down 2-0. TSM, with their own prowess, however, are only going to need 3.
This is where the pressure really starts to build for TSM, because they've done a great job on that defensive phase. Picked themselves at 4 rounds, got themselves a 2-round buffer. However, they don't want to let that slip too far. Having lost map 1 already, this still could quite easily run away from them. So they're going to need to be very careful how they choose to approach this. Considering that Joker is... I mean, he couldn't really do much wrong on the attack. He did fantastically. Double positive, 8 and 4. Really, you know, somebody to be quite feared at the moment. Everyone else a little bit quiet on the side of the Falcons, as to be expected with them only getting a couple of rounds. But that round just before the half, that momentum build is certainly going to mean something here for the Falcons, and TSM are going to have to play into that now. They're opting for a fairly similar lineup. They're bringing plenty of grenades, but instead going to be bringing that Twitch shock drone. I imagine that's in response to those mirror windows. Of course, Twitch is used to destroy a lot of utility as well, and something we've seen Mad Skills is certainly fond of is that Mozzie. The Mozzie pests have been prevalent in every round that we've seen so far today.
Not going to be combining it with Mute, however, so we don't see the double boost of that intel denial coming in. I think the Falcons could definitely benefit from here as well, considering how aggressively they like to play into these situations. We'll have to wait and see, though, if that's going to be held as true for this map as it was for our first one on Chalet. See Kotos there getting spotted out via some intel and nade. Attempting to go on to it, but he realizes what's happening a little bit too quickly. Post shooting out the drone, so he's going to quickly fall back and avoid the majority of the damage from that nade. We do see TSM as well going for their first adrenal surge here. Gives them that little bit of an extra health boost as they move in. It might very well just save Pojo Man's life. Regardless, though, he's low. Unfortunately, they've lost the first and second kills. There's no support until finally Gio's able to save the day here on the bookcase angle, but still, it's far too many kills against TSM far too quickly. They're down to just 2 players left standing here. Gio's been pushed out of his position in study entirely. Back on the balcony for him, and Achieved, trying to work the back flank, is now wondering what exactly he can do here as both players sit alone, grasping at straws to try and get themselves back into this round.
It's like the 3 corners of a triangle right now. You've got the Diffuser, Achieved, and Gio. Everyone's really separated from one another, and you're going to need to see them buddying up a little bit, at least to try and get the job done here. Gio gives his position away there with a goo mine. Likely not going to mean too much, but always isn't ideal to try and push in off the back of that, knowing you've got to check the floor for those as well. Joker could be primed and ready to take him out here, depending on the information. There are, of course, going to be holes above that could give the game away here for Gio, but he is allowed to make his way up those main stairs, and now could start to form a little bit of a link with not only the Diffuser, but also with Achieved. 40 seconds left, and Gio is going to pick up that case. Achieved looks to nade out there as J-Lad is in position to try and take a little bit of an engagement onto him, but they're going to play Ring Around the Rosie for the meantime. Kill there comes in onto Gio. Achieved pads his own stats with 1 onto J-Lad, but now he is 1 versus 3, and the Diffuser still is not in TSM's possession.
Only 20 seconds left as well here. It's more likely you're just going to see Achieved throw himself at the fight. Hope for the best in a 1v3. Trying to go for some of these pre-fires on timing. He's a couple seconds off sync at least for the 90 angle here. Nearly gets it as he goes back, but not going to happen. Mad Skills wins out the fight instead, and that'll be the first round of the second half, going under the control of the Falcons, leaving them just a few rounds behind TSM now.
The crowd getting revved up now as well for the Falcons. Every round they get a little bit louder. Falcons, of course, still trail by 1. But as we've just seen, they can very easily switch, especially here on Villa. Joker had another fantastic round there, really in the right place at the right time. And the push from TSM, it was almost as if they didn't have the correct information. They almost were working off old intel there, because a lot of the time they were just pushing straight into someone holding an angle. Sure, we got Achieved into 90, which in itself is quite a difficult place to take hold of, but even then he wasn't entirely safe. Really wasn't very much that TSM could do, especially when it was 2 versus 4. We are going to see Falcons change things up. Of course, being successful in AVG, they need a new site to go to. They're going to choose to go to Trophy and Statuary.
So the Falcons look to try and lock in that tied 4-4 scoreline. So we're going to see that reliance as well on the Thunderbird. Those Kona stations constantly showing up for the Falcons. Makes sense when you consider their more aggressive-leaning play style here. Having that safety to fall back into and reboost their health is very much the same thought pattern that comes to the support of Finka on the attacker's side, but still generally tends to be more of a niche pickup for teams and specific sites when we look at other tournaments. But here for the Falcons, they're bringing it in sometimes more often than not, depending on the map. Okill's not going to have the greatest start to this situation as he ends up losing a large majority of his HP, so he'll certainly benefit from these Kona stations, being able to quickly run around the two sitting upstairs and boost himself pretty much back to full HP.
Seen a lot of Thunderbird so far from Falcons today. They really like that operator. And why not? If you're going to play a little bit aggressively early on, give yourself that little bit of a boost when you do take the obvious damage that is to come. Geo could find himself in a good spot here, but with the barricaded door, it is going to be somewhat difficult to make entry there quietly. Does have a drone working for him, so maybe could give himself a ping, but his angles are pretty limited in onto the kitchen area. Madskill's just going to be holding onto that laundry door as well as Achieve's drone works ahead. TSM really focused on taking control of the floor below so that they can start to do a little bit of the up-nade magic that we've seen. Achieved having two in pocket to work with. Bolo, seeing if there's any feet there for the Inox tracker to lock onto. But for the meantime, Falcons are keeping themselves quite safe. It's almost as if TSM are chasing shadows, and two shadows could come together here. Bolo, he knows the drone, he can see the footprints. He doesn't need the Inox tracker for this one. He knows exactly where this player is going to be. No, don't give yourself away, Bolo. You can't show yourself to the door at that point. Surely you just got to take the challenge. Merc is going to be in position to try and gain a frag back and a second, as J-Lad will be next to fall. But Merc meets his demise. Madskills is in position. Trades back and forth here, but it looks as though TSM might come off one better.
It's going to be a bit of a chain of frags, too. Next player to pick up the kill is usually the next player to die in this scenario. Falcons looking to try and get control of it as they have a little bit of a pinch going on against one of the members of TSM. You can see Achieved trying to work around that. Madskills, unfortunately, as good as dead due to the intensity of this situation. Really no safe way for anyone to route back over to his spot, so he's more than likely as good as done here. We'll rely, yep, there you go, on Kotos as well as Okills to finish things up in the 2v3. Also, you're going to notice a window of opportunity now for Pojaman to get the diffuser down onto the ground, but a nice nade or Nitro Cell coming in from Kotos cleans up the first one. Okills will find the final frag from the inside of Master Bath, and it's a somewhat surprising victory to show up there. TSM again just not having the right read on intel, and with that stacked on top of the Nitro Cell blunder, leaves them without a player left alive, and another round into the pockets of the Falcons.
Falcons have leveled things up. That's all they needed to do. 2 rounds was all they needed to bring this game level. 4 rounds apiece now we sit at. For what was, for TSM standards, quite scrappy on their own clear. You've got to think, we're used to a bit more buddy system. We're used to a little bit more droning. We don't just want to be taking blind gunfights here. We need to be using our advantages and using the things that we're good at to try and get one up and a little bit of an edge on our opponent. And Madskills, they've just gone, if you want to play into us like that, we are more than happy to oblige. Fantastic trade game coming out of them there, never letting anything slip too far, even when we saw TSM gain a brief advantage. Unfortunate there for Pojo to get C4'd as the plant was going down, but TSM realistically, they were running out of options at that point in the round. Now things start off all level as we do reach that 4-4 scoreline, and Falcons can start to try and build a bit of a lead of their own here.
Both teams looking to pick up 3 rounds to lock in the map, and for the Falcons, it would lock in the series too and lead to the final North American team at this tournament from being eliminated. And from that, we're going to see the site hold resume itself over towards the kitchen, as well as Tarps will look to fend off the next bout of aggression from TSM. Pojaman coming in on the Ash, which is always going to be fun to see, like I talked about before. She has taken a bit of a backseat in the meta as of late, but we have started to see her pop up from time to time as Pojaman is going to go for now, see what he potentially work towards and specifically help out with those breaching charges should the need arise here, especially considering we're working downstairs. A lot of soft breach potential going to show up, so I can definitely see the use case for this.
Gio loves the twitch in the early round. He loves getting in there and just destroying a couple of little bits of utility. And we've mentioned before, when you're going up against the Mozzie and when you're going against Wamai, why not even a mute jammer if you can find the angle onto it? Gio's got himself a little bit of info here. Madskills is going to be forced out of position. Should allow Gio to get himself up. Instead going to drop down and maybe enter in through Art Studio as Pojo looks to try and join him here as well. Bit of an off-meta choice, the old Ash with the diffuser. It's not something that you see every day, but Pojo just making it work.
He's going to end up dropping it, so we'll see if he's about to try and make a bit of a play for himself here over the next few seconds, maybe investigating over towards the laundry area. We are going to see 2 kills show up at once for the members of TSM. JLad trying to fend it off, but the prowess from TSM is just far too much. Every single member of the Falcons is just quite suddenly dead, and it's all up to O'Kills inside of a 1v4 now to try and reverse that. What little hope he'll have to do it, unfortunately, isn't going to have any intel to play into here, nor any capability to deny the play. Pojo Man secures it. Post-plant positions will have been well established. Okay, never mind by this point. Beautiful one tap from O'Kills to sneak off the kill and achieve, but how much further can he realistically get here? A bit of the time already being used up. He's got about 20 seconds left to get himself onto the diffuser and stick it as well. He's desperately hunting for another mistake from TSM, but he's not going to find it by this chassis. Needs to move out for himself here, and unfortunately, that's the move he does not want to make in this scenario. 20 seconds remain. Realistically, about 5 to get himself into it, but the composure from O'Kills, certainly something to be respected as he knocks out a second player now with a near one-tap headshot. Time is up, though. He's now no longer going to be able to clutch out this round, so he'll just bleed it out. Maybe try to lead to his death as well. But the round, regardless, will be going into the hands of TSM as they take the lead yet again.
We're definitely seeing players thirst for these kills. We're definitely seeing players want to get these kills. Achieved and Bolo there, just getting a little bit itchy. Knowing that the round was pretty much locked in, knowing that they had the benefit of a man count advantage, they were just willing to peek and try their hand. It was kind of funny as well, because almost at the moment that Pojo dropped the diffuser, Bolo picks up 2 kills, and it's almost like, Pojo, what are you doing? Pick that thing back up. You're going to be putting that on the ground.
We know you're on
second.
the ash, but
the only way that you put that thing on the ground is if you plant it. That's the only way you let go of it. Bolo really activating himself there. Obviously just found a little pocket of space to work with, and TSM find a much needed round here. Retaking the lead here in this second map of Villa.
So 2 to go for TSM to lock in our extension over towards a third and final map on Cafe. Meanwhile, for the Falcons, they're now fighting to survive and end this series a bit prematurely here. So they can lock in the 2-0 victory for themselves. Away from that, no surprises when it came to the operator picks over here on the Falcons side. TSM is going to add a new wrinkle specifically for Bolo. We'll have to wait and see. Not looking like any other change-ups are going to be made, but Bolo is going to be bringing the Dokkaebi in. We saw the slight mistake, I believe it was 1 or 2 rounds ago, where Bolo did get caught on the Inox trying to isolate out one of the players while in the opening door. So he's going to try a bit of a different take on that anti-roam here and use the phone call instead to try and suss those players out.
Dokkaebi worked really well for TSM on Chalet as well. Bolo did a great job of timing those phone calls. It usually signaled a little bit of a rush, at least in round number 1 it did, and then he kind of switched between a couple of different operators and kind of brought the Dokkaebi out at choice moments. We'll have to see if it signals a rush here and now, although I highly doubt it. We're going to see quite a concise clear there coming in from that master bedroom side of things. Bolo has burned both of his smoke grenades initially, though. Maybe in an attempt to try and distract and drag Falcons back to the site as the call comes in and around the same time. There is going to be the small matter of the mirror window to deal with. I don't think that the shock drone would have been successful. Oh, it did. It did actually manage to open up the canister before it got shot out. Merc, he's picked himself up a kill onto Joker, likely through that open mirror window. Is JLad going to find himself downed as well?
Bolo able to pick up a second kill here. And with that, once again, the Falcons just not able to contend inside of the early round as much as they were finding success for previously. I need to try and cool that off here as TSM is getting a dangerous amount of control of these first 2 minutes of play. Is allowing them to set up so many successful assaults here just over this past round or 2 as well. Keep in mind that Falcons had already used attack pause earlier on. Will not have the option to try and give themselves a moment of relief due to the fact that they've brought that out. So they're going to need to try and bring the best of the best that they can to try and survive the rest of this game, but it's just not panning out in this round. Achieved, able to trap out another member of the squad. That's Mad Skills now going down onto the ground. We're going to see cam access stolen away here as well by Bolo, so any defaults left up on the interior are going to become very, very useful for the members of Team Falcons, not to mention any bulletproofs, though I'm not sure if we have any of those up and about at this point. For the members of the Falcons, though, they're locked into the site, just trying their best to wait out the push, and Kotos, he's going to get it. We see the play coming in now. Kotos fends off the first bit of resistance. Will he get the second? No, Merc exchanges him, and unfortunately, we cannot see O'Kills move over to support him. He has to try and fight for death's door, and while he'll get 1 kill there, achieved on the 90, immediately exchanges him back out to be able to win the round.
TSM coming through with a really good plan inside of that round. Comprehensive push from Master side. The switch onto the Dokkaebi worked out really well. They were able to use the phone calls, hack the cameras, pretty much the trifecta. Bolo's a nightmare as well with that DMR. When he's firing that thing, it looks like he's firing a normal gun. The round count is just disappearing and plummeting. Certainly got a heck of a trigger finger on him. It is going to put TSM onto a map point, a chance to level things here inside of this series. It looks as though we might be seeing Cafe here if this keeps on going, Blue. We do, of course, Falcons. They've got a couple of rounds that they do need to catch up. 2 rounds to try and take this into an overtime. But TSM, they are looking pretty unstoppable here. They have shifted into an entirely different gear.
It's all up to the Falcons and how they may potentially change their state of play for this final round. Are they going to slow it down? Are they going to try and trap the members of TSM as they've had all the control they've needed for this early play? In fact, Bolo's now going to go back over toward the Jackal, where we saw him playing into the Dokkaebi previously, so going to try and get that extra precise information about where the Falcons might be roaming around here. As far as their own strategy, though, it's not looking like a whole lot is going to be switching up. In fact, we see a little bit of a double down there, specifically for Mad Skills, as he'll go on to the Ella J-Lad as well, still going to bring the Wamai. And we'll more than likely have O-Kills roaming about also on the Mozzie.
O-Kills has maybe had a slightly quieter game here than he did on Chalet. Currently sitting at 7 and 6, not setting the world on fire. It's really all been down to Joker to pick up those multi-kills and to maintain that seriously positive KD. O-Kills only positive by 1 here, so Falcons are lacking in that gunfight a little bit, and I think that's in part due to the step up that we've seen from TSM in that information gathering, constantly bringing the Dokkaebi or the Jackal. Talk about information gathering, talk about the Dokkaebi or the Jackal. Bolo, unfortunate for you, J-Lad, he's going to pick you first.
J-Lad throwing double impacts towards the outside as well, maybe trying to scare away any reinforcements that might have been on Repel. Unfortunately, no one really there, so both of those are going to end up being wasted to the wind. You can see Gio just going for the quick check onto Walk-In. I'll have to be aware, of course, of this player holding out by the main door, and he'll be more than aware of that. Mad Skills actually might be in a bit of a risky position here if we see Bolo, or rather not Bolo, the member of TSM Gio here, try to follow through, as of course they've kept the Dokkaebi in check too. The phone call is going to go out to reconfirm the play from Mad Skills, but he is now more aware of this potential push, so he'll be here to directly contest against the play from Gio should he still go for it. Merc as well, caught looking at the wrong corner. O-Kills will take that opportunity, knock him down, and finally Falcons have gotten some gravity going for themselves here in the early round as they finally take control of these opening kills and bring it down to a 5v3.
Massive advantage for the Falcons. There's just over half the half the round left, and they can almost drop back now, get themselves into really difficult to find locations like J-Lad, getting himself just on those east stairs at the basement level, sat in between. Pojo, he's advanced up through into the Wolf window area a little bit, but we do have J-Lad still threatening that flank, and with Falcons players inside of the site, it makes it very difficult from this point onwards. There's no nades left for Achieve, so we can't look to throw any up nades. O-Kills is in a real off location there. No one's going to expect you to be laid on top of that bookcase. The flashbang is going to come through and it will disrupt him for now. Achieved is going to be slowly working his way up, but loses that on the gunfight. The Mozzie superior in those close ranges, and it leaves even more to do for Poj and Gio.
TSM just can't catch a break in this round as well. Gio finally with some success here as he takes out one, misreads where the pre-fire is coming from on the follow-up. He's going to try to get some control over it as Kotos finally fully engages against him, but it's far too little too late. He picks it up instead. One more from Pojo Man, but Mad Skills come dashing in for the immediate exchange to finally put another round on the board here for the Falcons. They're trying to bring it back, but they are going to need to trigger overtime to do it. One more round will get them there, though, as they are indeed going to try to go the full distance here on Villa.
It's almost frustrating. I really praise TSM's information game. I was like, that was what we can credit those last couple of rounds to on the attack. And that round, it just all got thrown out the window. It was almost like as soon as Bolo went, that was it.
Yeah.
There was like no one that was bothered about droning. There was no one that was looking to, everyone's getting caught looking the wrong way. It was a nightmare for them. They're going to have to try and compose themselves here, so they can't afford to let too many rounds slip whilst they might be sat on a map point. Probably a good time to take a timeout.
ice the Falcons out a little bit, prevent them from obviously carrying the momentum from the previous round into this one. It's definitely surprising that we didn't see good intel play from the players on TSM, considering they kind of doubled down on the operator selection for it. Usually they've been flipping between the Jackal as well as the Dokkaebi. That last round they bring both and still struggle with the intel game a little bit there. So more than likely going to see that changed up probably because it was relatively ineffective in that round. They'll look for other ways to deal with that. More than likely still going to keep one of them as it's kind of essential for this map, especially when it comes to the early round, but doubt we will see both get picked up again. Either way, the pause is in play here, and it's a lot more quiet right now, unless we just don't see the talking player from TSM on our screen. It's going to be closing out soon, though. We're already going to be heading back into the round, as you might have caught on the player's monitor. So let's see if the Falcons can complete the set and get us to overtime, or if TSM will follow through here and pick up their own 7th.
Falcons, they'll need to dig deep if they want to try and take this one to an OT. At least if they want to try and take it to a successful overtime. One round, of course, would do it, but they would need another couple to lock out the game. We're going to see a slightly different lineup. If in doubt, bring a shield out. Gio going to be thrown onto the Monty. There's the desperate panic pick. I always like to throw the shield out there as a panic pick because teams bring it when the going is tough, when they just need to get away with something. And I really emphasize the get away with because it isn't something that should always happen. Bolo, back onto a much more familiar pick for him in the Zafir. We're actually going to see the Finker being brought as well. We've barely seen any Finker this map, considering that it's been available. We saw a lot of Joker playing it, but we haven't really seen it all too much from the TSM side of things. But nice to see that they've dropped that Jackal Dokkaebi combination that they've been rocking with, and they're going for something that's got a lot more fragging power.
So away from that, things are going to start quite slowly for both of these teams. Here is TSM more than likely going to try to position Gio in front of those roamers and see if they can catch them out in the early round. Here, they'll obviously play onto their drone intel to see if they can catch them that way first, but Gio will act as a little bit of an insurance policy for the initial clear here to make sure they don't get tripped up like the way we saw that happen on the previous round. Be able to move himself in, just gives the call out to clear the default so he doesn't end up trapping himself to a library pinch or something like that, and he will be able to move through without too much of an issue, at least for this initial hold for clearing out the front stairs. Not going to see too much attention minded to this as well by the Falcons. They've obviously prioritized the upstairs hold, specifically over on the extension by AVG, and even throughout the rest of the first floor. I think we only have one or two players, J-Lad, I believe, over by Astro Stairs, and they too are starting to fall back pretty quickly.
It's all well and good playing Gio on the shield, but it looks at the moment as if there's no one really there to support him. Merc is going to be playing in and around the area, but he's not directly on Gio's shoulder. Instead, we've got drones working ahead, which is good. You know, we know that we're not going to be walking into anything that's going to surprise us or be too much of a trap. However, there's no one there to immediately take advantage of something. Madskill's going to get a huge amount of damage and a little bit unfortunate onto a bit of kill potential, should I say, onto Achieved. Knocking him down by half as Achieved is still trying to drone out that top floor. Now, Madskills, for all that he got away with a little bit of something there, he might not get away with all too much further. Poj fearlessly swings him on the ace. Not all the time you're going to send your Heartbreacher in to do that kind of job.
Had the yellow ping to support it as well, so a bit of confidence building up behind that. Either way, though, good job with catching Madskills, who's unfortunately missed most of his shots that he's tried to go for inside of this game here. Nade in, Pojo is going to end up catching Kotos as well, but he will be able to trade out Pojo Man in the process. Another member, O-Kills, has been lost deeper into the site. He'll be finished off by Gio now. Bolo with the wrap, knocks out Joker, and with one more kill from Merc, it's going to be TSM instead that control map number 2 and send us to our third and final map to decide this series. TSM indeed with the control. They don't necessarily look happy about it. Job's not done just yet. They need to stay focused for our third map.
TSM know that there is still a lot of work here to do, Blue. They are going to have to go on to